Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a place called Success. Anissa Smith here with my friend and education, I call her subject matter expert, Sarah Bagley. And today we're talking about boundaries and consistency for our kiddos. We know that, one of the challenges a lot of times that we see with our children, whether young or old, is them not understanding the boundaries and not knowing what boundaries are or how to operate within the boundaries. So we're going to be talking about that today. Again, I'm Anissa Smith. I'm your facilitator. My friend Sarah Bagley. Sarah, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thanks, Anissa. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Bagley. I am an instructional specialist here in Dallas, Texas. Prior to being in Dallas, I've spent my entire life up until the last, I guess, year or so in the Northern Virginia area near DC. So I have been in education for 23 years now. Over the 23 years, I've worked with pre-kindergarten students. I have worked with alternative education kids K through 6. I have been a math specialist for the elementary level, kindergarten through 6th grade, been a classroom teacher for 3rd grade and 6th grade, technology coordinator, and most recently working as an instructional coach for kindergarten through 2nd grade students and teachers, where I help coach teachers as well as do reading intervention for 2nd grade students.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Sarah, we've been having some really great conversations over the last several weeks. And this week, we kind of pivoted a little bit. And so we're talking about boundaries and consistency. I know from the standpoint, as parents, and of course, as an educator, setting boundaries for students, and also, for even as an educator, you have to set boundaries. But can you give us, a definition or kind of explain what boundaries are, for just to give us a little bit of a framework?
So when looking at boundaries, I'm thinking about we're looking at the do's and don'ts. So
Okay.
kind of like a framework, or you think about a border. You think about,
Hmm.
say, a fence. And so the boundary is that border that allows you to know how far you can and cannot go.
Hmm.
When we think about in our personal lives, there are times that we try to, we should, we may or may not set boundaries, be it boundaries within your relationship, be it with your spouse, be it with your significant other, be it with your friend, be it at the workplace, be it at home. Even as adults, we set boundaries where I would only allow someone to do A, B, C, and D. You can only
Hmm.
go this far with me. This
Yeah.
is how close you can come, how far back I'm going to keep you. And so we set those boundaries for ourselves in our personal lives. When we're looking at it for our kids, it's also letting them know, okay, this is how far you can and cannot go. And so sometimes kids, because they are so young, don't even know how to set the boundaries for themselves. We then begin to set it for them and show them, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do, and then understanding the why behind the boundaries that are set. So if I'm thinking about boundaries, I guess the best way is I picture that fence. And
Yes.
so the fence was how far, how wide the area is, or how close is the fence gate going to be here, or we're going to keep it further out. How far do we keep that fence from ourselves to
Hmm.
give that space? And
Hmm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so, based on that, how do boundaries at home and school help children academically?
so when looking at the boundaries, both home and school for academics, again, it's giving the child that framework. So it's the
Hmm.
do's and don'ts, what we are going to do. This is what's expected of you. And so this is how far, this is what we're going to allow you. And I use the word allow,
Yes.
but kind of allow you to do um, in school and at home. And one of the things is with those boundaries, they need to be consistent. And so, for example, if a boundary or a rule at home is that you can um, do whatever you want whenever, however, there's no limit. So there is no time frame behind how long you have to sit at the table to do your homework. There's no
Mm-hmm.
time frame behind go to bed. There's no time, there's nothing that's solid and set in stone.
Uh-huh.
Then when the child in turn goes to school and it's time for math, it's time for language arts, it's time for science, it's time to stop recess. Because the boundary of this is how long this goes, this is how long we're going to do this has not been set at home and it's set at home. When it spills over to school, the child's like, well, I don't do this at home. I don't have to do it at school. And so there is no, and that also goes with that consistency.
Yes.
It's a different language being said. Well, my mom lets me do so and so, my dad lets me do so and so. If you think about even within the homes, if there are, whether it's a two-parent household or the child is going between two different houses,
Mm.
at mom's house, the kids do this, at dad's house, is this. And then when the child comes back to the primary home, the parents in the reset mode. Now I got to reset again because you were with so and so over the weekend.
Yeah.
Or when the kids go to grandma's house for the summertime and they're gone for 2 weeks, and we know, I don't know what happens with grandparents, but somehow grandparents were the different kind of people than they were with the kids. And the boundaries that the grandparents set for us no longer exist.
Right.
And so they get the grandma's house and nana's house and they get the candy and they, yeah, baby, you can have candy for breakfast. Wait, mom, that's not what's so. And so you have to reset that way
Right.
because it wasn't the same consistent. And
Right.
so the same thing happens when the child comes to school. And so if there's nothing set in stone and regulations and routines, then the behavior impacts the academics
Uh-huh.
because the boundaries help with the behavior. And so when you're looking at again boundaries, it's what are the rules? What are
Mm.
the expectations? And then if there are none, then the child is doing whatever they feel. It's the I'm just being a free spirit, I'm just going to wander and do. Well, if that's the case, then the teacher is trying to instruct the 15, 20, 25, 30 kids he or she has in the room, that child can be a disruption, not just to the teacher or
Mm.
the other kids, but even to themselves. And so,
Mm.
therefore, lack of boundaries so it's a behavior. Well, behavior becomes to escalate. If there becomes a behavior problem, then academically, the teacher has to redirect and address the behavior, which cuts back on the learning, or the child then is removed from the room. If the child is removed from the room, they're still not getting the learning in academics. So
Mm-hmm.
it all overlaps together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really good. So when we talk about, setting those boundaries, helping the student or the child understand what's acceptable behavior, what are the do's and the don'ts here. Um, how do we balance giving the children or the students wants and needs? How do we balance that?
One is knowing your child.
Okay.
And each child is different. And even within the classroom, we can have 25 kids in the room and we're going to have 25 different personalities. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we'll have 25 kids, we'll have 30 different personalities. Even those 25 kids, this child is, depends on the time of day and what time,
Right.
would set them off for things. Okay, we're a little tired. That's the tired personality.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of knowing what the child needs.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when dealing with the wants and the needs, and this gets a little interesting because there are different thoughts behind balancing the wants and needs.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kids that work on a reward system.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're building up to, if I get so many points, I get that what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Let me back up. One of the things is needs are basic bottom. You get your needs. There are some things that we need, and needs are not to be withheld.
Okay.
We need the basic need of safe, of feeling secure, of feeling loved, of knowing I'm protected and trusted. So those needs, food, water, shelter, those are our basic needs that
Mm-hmm.
must be given no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't care how. Um, out of bounds the child may or may not be, the needs cannot be withheld. Needs
Yeah.
are bottom line basic.
Hmm.
But the wants are those extra.
Hmm.
So the wants are the bonus. So again, needs food, shelter, clothing. Those are your needs. A want is the $300 pair of shoes. No, that's a want. That's not a need. Your feet are covered. You whether you've got the penny loafers or and I don't know they make penny loafers now, but
Right. Or kids wear them. Yeah.
yeah. So whether you have the basic, the shoes from it used to be Payless, which is closed now, but
Yeah.
Walmart or but whether it's that or if I'm going to the Nike store or outlet and getting you these brand new shoes, that becomes the want. So we need to understand how to balance that. Again, knowing who your child is. There's some children sometimes that I've experienced where um, there may have been a meltdown within the class where there's something that's happening emotionally where they kind of had a meltdown. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because they are trying to communicate. They wanted chips, so they wanted to go color or they wanted to do something different than what was happening right then.
Hmm.
And so then there's an escalation, there's a behavior, and I've seen it with tantrums happen.
Hmm.
And so because it didn't say, I want to do so and so. And so in that instance, when they finally articulate, well, I want blah, 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 it then becomes sometimes I've seen, okay, well, you asked for it, now I'm going to give it to you.
Hmm.
And that's where the disconnect comes in, where no, we don't have to always give it to you because you finally asked the correct way. There was a system that was in place that should have built up to that. So we got to go back and address what took place before I give you what you want.
Hmm.
And so when we're looking at balancing the wants and the needs, let's go back to what happened to that to escalate to get that. If you want it, did you earn it?
Mm.
And I guess that would be the question about balancing the wants and the needs. Okay, the want is have you earned it?
Hmm.
We all we want our paycheck. We go to work because we want our paycheck.
Hmm.
We don't just get a paycheck just because I just want money, so I'm just going to get it. Well, what have you done to
Hmm.
earn the paycheck? Well, I came in every day on time. I clocked in, and
Yeah.
I went and I got my work done. So therefore, I have done the necessary things to earn
Yeah.
that what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing
Wow.
is for our kids. That just because they want it does not mean they get it. And then it's also a matter of even balancing when do you get the want. We
Mm.
don't get our paycheck when you start working. You don't get the paycheck on day one.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks before that first check comes in, which is why when you leave your job, there may be an extra check that comes because they were behind with that right
Yes.
there. And so kids also struggle with what I wanted. I asked for it. I asked nicely, why didn't you give it to me right now?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, because I don't have to. so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, so we're going to teach you how to wait, which is difficult for kids. And here's a secret, it's difficult for us adults as well.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
We get impatient and well, I just want it and I want it now. And if we don't teach kids how to one, wait for something, how to work for it and earn it, then we end up down the road where we see a lot of kids, teens, adults, whomever it is, where they're going and taking because well, I want it, so therefore I'm going to get it by any means necessary.
Hmm.
And so we have to teach our kids at an early age, how do we wait? Some of that happens when they're babies.
Yes.
When the baby is crying, do we run and immediately pick the baby up because they're crying? And sometimes we do. Oh, baby's crying, pick them up, hold them because they're crying. And the baby learns at an early age. If I go, someone's gonna pick me up.
Yeah.
I apparently, according to my parents, was that child that I could, I would, they told me I want proof. I don't have a video, so I can't say I agree with them, but they tell me I was that child that I would cry and my mom would pick me up right away. And my dad was like, no, there's nothing wrong with her. She's not hurt.
Yeah.
She's not hungry. She's not wet. She just wants to be held right now. And so we have to show her that no, just because you want it doesn't mean you get it right then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that then goes back to our initial part, setting those boundaries and teaching just because you want it doesn't mean you get it right now. So go back to
Mm.
your question, needs are given right away. Needs have to be given because that's what um it's what's needed. It's what you have to survive.
Hmm.
So needs should never be withheld. Wants are totally different. Wants have, I believe that wants are something that are earned, not given.
Wow, that's really good. Let's talk about um, wait time. Um, how do we help children adjust um, to getting immediate attention? Um, like, how do we help them work through delayed gratification that, um, when you're not getting it immediate? As I know some children, when there are no boundaries, they begin to act out because that's their mechanism to control. How do we help them navigate
Mm-hmm.
by setting the expectation of delayed gratification? What thoughts do you have? And that could be in between responses at school or home, especially when there are other children that are present.
So with that, it's we have to teach our kids, but we have to also teach ourselves.
Mm,
And I start with teaching ourselves because of the fact that we have to not be moved by the response the child is doing.
mm-hmm,
So just because they're crying, because they're falling out, just because they're screaming, we cannot allow the child's behavior to dictate our response where we then give in.
mm-hmm,
So as hard as it is um, for parents or some parents, just because the child has a tear and is crying does not mean we have to jump to it. And that can be hard. And I know that can be difficult because nobody wants to see their child hurt. Most
mm-hmm.
people don't want to see their child unhappy. The average parent is like, I want to make sure my child is happy, um, is full of life and joy, and I don't want to see them sad. And so when I say no, they feel sad and they're crying, and then our heart is broken and it's tugging on our emotional strings.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, as the adult, we have to be able to set the emotional boundaries for ourselves where we're saying, nope, I'm not going to be moved by you crying. I see, and there's some kids that are really good at it. They got that puppy dog look. They got it, and they could put the little, and you're like, oh, here, baby. And so, and they know how to do and here's the thing, no one teaches them how to do it.
Yeah,
Kids are taught how to manipulate. They just come and just do it.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
to be taught not to be moved by the manipulation. And so that's one, is being able to teach ourselves that, okay, even if we as the adult have to walk away and go, I'm not looking at you right now. I can't look. If I look at this tear, I'm gonna give in. So we have to, one, be strong enough to know I'm the adult, I'm the one in control. I am not going to be controlled by a 4-year-old or a 6-month old or a nine
Right.
year old or whatever age the child is. I am the adult. I am going to set my own emotional boundaries there.
Yeah.
The other thing would be is, even as they're young and as they get older, because if you didn't do it when they were young, it's still possible as they get older. It's kind of teaching, okay, let's just teach how to sit and wait. So it may be a timer. One of the things I've seen, and it was going viral on social media at one point,
Mm-hmm.
where they would put in front of the child maybe some candy and say,
Yeah.
okay, don't eat this now. I'm going to step away. And when I come back, if you don't eat it, you'll get whatever. And so they'll put the thing in front of the kid that the child wants and they walk away and they have the camera to kind of see, is the child going to give it? And there's some kids that they give it like, hey, it's here. I can't wait. And then other kids, you see that they're going, wait, they say, wait. And you're watching them and it's a struggle. The baby is trying, they're trying so hard because it's what they want. But when the parent comes like, oh, you did a good job, you waited, and then they give them that reward, which goes back to the wants and needs. Okay, now I'm kind of rewarding you because you've earned that. So some of it is, let's just start with, okay, let's set a timer. Okay, you asked for so and so. Okay, let's wait 5 minutes and set the timer and begin to kind of build the capacity in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that starts at home. Because when they get to school, what we deal with in the classroom is the child may say, I want help, I need help, and they want you to come right then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I taught third grade, my third grade, my babies were big on this. They're like, "Oh, Miss Maggie, I need," and I'm working with somebody, and so we kind of set some rules. Like, okay, if you're not on fire and someone's not falling out bleeding or passed out, if I'm with this group, you're going to have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And so I taught my kids, they were the only 8-year-olds who knew the word at the, well, I said the only ones, but at 8 years old, they learned the word egocentric.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I taught my kids at 8 years old egocentric. I said, that means that you think it's all about you. I said, I want you to look around the room and count the number of kids in this room.
Yeah.
You are not in the room by yourself. You are not in the world by yourself.
Yeah.
So therefore, the sun does not rise and set just because you got up today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to learn how to share and kind of work together and know that it's other people that we have to kind of wait for. We do the same thing as adults. And I tell them, guys, if I'm go by the DMV, just know the DMV is going to teach you how to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's now serving A34 and you are A35 and you know you are next, and then it goes to D2, and you're like, wait a minute, I've been here for 4 hours. So,
Yeah.
but because that
Yeah.
DMV will teach you how to wait. I almost
Oh
want to say take
yeah.
the kids to the DMV and have them sit with you as you're in the DMV. That'll teach them how to wait because
Yeah. Yeah.
you could
Mommy,
be there all day.
are we done yet?
Like,
Yeah.
mommy, we're not, no, baby, we're not. But it's one, making sure that we don't get tied in with that emotion of how the kid is responding. And then I would start small. If they're asking for something, it may be okay. We're going to set a deadline, a time. I will give it to you here. Let's build up to that.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to holidays, I know there are people who do Christmas countdowns. We'll put the calendar up. We're going to count down to the birthday and learning how certain things, what is that thing you're waiting for or you're wanting
Mm-hmm.
for? Let's then build to that. So giving them that capacity,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's not going to necessarily happen overnight. And
Mm-hmm.
I would not suggest, okay, we're going to learn how to wait for 30 days. No, it may be, let's just start a 5 minute wait, a 10-minute wait, especially if you have not trained your child on how to wait.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building that capacity in them and then also reminding them that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Parents with multiple kids, it kind of helps because they've got other kids they're dealing with. The parent that has just one child, it can be a little challenging sometimes because it's just the parent and the child. And the child comes, the parent responds right then. It may be when they call, you don't respond right away. Again,
Mm.
is it an emergency?
Yeah.
Is this something that has to happen right now or can it wait? And so even with that, you and that one child, they come, "Mommy," do you have, and kids are, mommy, 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 and they just keep, so
Yeah.
wait, I will be there. I'm doing so and so and so and so. When I finish this, I will come. Now, that's the next part though. If you tell your child, when I finish this, I will then respond, we have to follow through.
I follow through.
Because
Okay.
there are times, because that indicates that's where the trust comes in and mistrust. But if we tell the child, okay, when I finish this phone call, then I'll come and do so and so, and then someone else calls, or you hang up and you go do something else. The child is like, well, you told me when you finish that you'll come. They never keep their word. They never this. So now the child is not even in the place of waiting because you're not going to do what you said you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
they have to also be able to trust and believe that if you say, when you do this, or if you wait 5 minutes, or if you go and do this, um, one of the first grade classes, they want to, I need water, I want a bathroom. And so the teacher just sit down, what is our signal? And
Mm-hmm.
so the child goes back. Teacher has to then remember, let me look at this child because they're going to do this when they sit down. Okay, you've done that. Now let me let you, go from there and not forget. And we forget. Let's be honest, we're humans. There are times
Yeah.
that we say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do," and I'm like, "Oh." And if we forget, own it. Hey, babe, I'm sorry. You are absolutely right. I told you I was going to do this, and I forgot. I messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay to even tell a kid sorry. That's something that I don't think as adults we do often, that we admit that we're wrong and tell kids that we're
Mm,
wrong
yeah.
because we are
Yeah.
times that we
Yeah.
are. But to help with that, we have to respond and build that trust with them and build that capacity.
Okay. Now talking about logical consequence, what can you say more about that?
So logical consequences would be, so if the child, um, I'm thinking in school where they ripped their paper up or they've broken all their pencils.
Yeah.
A logical consequence is you get to use the broken pencils.
Okay.
No, I'm not giving you a brand new pencil for you to break more of my pencils. You just had a tantrum. You went to your desk and broke all your pencils. Well, now you're going to use the broken pencils.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
the consequence.
okay. So basically, the consequence should fit the action in a way
The
that
action.
is you're going to own this because if you're destroying my classroom, okay, now that you destroyed it, you get to clean it up.
You get to clean it up.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
You
so then
get to
that's
clean it up. Um,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
and there are
Accountability.
times that the consequences don't match. Yeah, it doesn't match the behavior. There are times where I'm going to say the child may have, and this is where it gets interesting sometimes. So the child didn't do the homework or didn't finish the homework or didn't do whatever. And so logical consequence, okay, we're at recess time, you're gonna have to finish this.
Yes.
But then what might be illogical is, okay, you have to finish this and now you have to walk 20 laps and now you don't get recess. Well, that's not a logical consequence. They didn't finish the work. So you missed this time out while you finish the work. And now that it's done, okay, go, do whatever. So it's a matter of making sure that which we do and how we respond and those consequences match what happens. The same thing as adults. If you're late for work, your pay may be docked. That's a logical
Mm,
consequence. If you run a red light, you may get a ticket. If you and we think about even when it comes to and this is kind of an extreme one, but I think about when you look in certain neighborhoods and certain areas where the prices are higher
yes.
than other areas. Sometimes those prices are higher because there's been high theft. And so
Mm,
logical consequence, I've lost money, so therefore I have to raise the price of these items. They have things locked up because this is happening. Now, granted, I'm not shopping there. That's
yeah.
my choice. But the logical consequence is because this happened, this is the response. So logical consequences become more of a cause and effect. Because this happened, here's the effect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. Um, so in regards to that, what when a child or perhaps a student um is resistant to the consequence, or perhaps there's a consequence issue and the parent does not agree with the consequence that was issued. Is that something that you all that's often seen?
I have seen it before,
Hmm.
and that's where hope. you have an administrative team that's also backing you up.
Okay.
But it's also going back to what we talked about before, is having that open communication and
Mm-hmm.
that trust building relationship, even with
Yes.
so that parent and the child and the teacher are all on one page. There are times that again parents have gone, well, I don't agree with this, and my child would never, and and I have had that. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are times we come to the point where we can agree to disagree. These are the rules in my classroom. These are my expectations. So therefore, if there is a problem and you do not agree, if there are times ago you may have to remove your child because this is what we've agreed on as a class. This is
Mm-hmm.
what our policy is as a school. This is what I expect as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there have been times where I have had parents going, well, you told my child so and so and so and so. And when I've had those meetings, I've even had the kid in the room with me. So when I've had parents that have come to me irate because I hurt their baby's feelings and I made their baby cry and I didn't let the child go to the I had a child years ago. He hadn't done his work. He was missing like 2 weeks worth of work. Like it
Ah,
was a lot of work. It wasn't he missed a day of work. He was
right.
missing like 2 weeks of work.
Right, right, right.
And I had given him plenty of time to get caught up. I had told the mom, this is what he's missing. He's going to need so and so and so and so to get caught up and to be able to pass the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had, it was a spirit parade we did for this around Halloween, and the kids were dressed as book characters and different things. I said, okay, whoever is not caught up with their work, when we go to this, you won't be going. That's when you're going to use your time to get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, you took my child's scene and I was coming to do so and so. I was coming to watch him in this. Well, ma'am, I'm glad you're here because I've been trying to reach you.
Mm.
So let's look down at what's missing from your child and why this happened.
Yes.
And by the time I finished with all the zeros he had, she was, oh, okay. Well, I can't get him to do this work at home. Well, and then we talked about things like, he slams the door. We'll take the door off. You don't get a
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's right. That's right.
we talked about kind of gave her things at home to do, but I had to communicate with the parent the why behind what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing is when we're doing something, what is our motive? What is our purpose? What is our why?
Mm-hmm.
And so as educators, we work to try to make sure the parent understands
Mm-hmm.
the why, that we don't have it out for your kid.
Yeah.
We're not sitting up at night going, how can I make him mad tonight? If I do so and so and so and so, then that's not what we're trying to do. This is
Mm-hmm.
the why behind that.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of getting the parent kind of on board to understand why we do what we do. Typically, once we can get the parent to calm down and
Yeah.
hear, and again, not come in with emotion. And that's what we
Mm-hmm.
were saying earlier about when the child is crying, are we jumping to emotion where I have to rescue my child?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, even as the child gets older, as a parent, teaching them how to advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How do I empower you to advocate for yourself and know and understand the why behind everything?
Mm-hmm.
Because as the parent, we're not going to always be there to rescue and save our kids. So that's another piece. But it goes back to that communication and
Mm-hmm.
being able to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is if you're sending your child to school to be in our class, you trust that I have the right motive and the right mindset for your child. So if you trust me to educate your child, if you trust me with your child from 9 to 3,
Mm-hmm.
trust me with how we're even running and handling things. And if I say A, B, C, and D, then that's what's happening.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So then let's talk about how do we avoid getting into verbal volleyball?
um, Short answer, don't play the game. And when I say don't play the game, when the child starts the back, I'm not arguing with you on this. This is what
Mm,
I've said. This is what you're doing, and you walk away.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I did, and we go back. I'm not doing the but. When you respond, it's the verbal volleyball. It's the back and forth. Here's what's happening. Here are the consequences. Deal with it. Bye, and you walk away. You literally don't play the game. Don't how to get away with it. Just don't play the game. I told kids, I'm not arguing with you. I refuse to argue with you. You make me sick. No, I guess you can go lay down there because you're sick. If you're sick, I guess you can't go play.
Yeah,
Hmm. You're
yeah,
sick right now. But I would say the quick answer is just,
yeah.
don't play the game. Um, Also, but it's still knowing, again, knowing your child. Um, if there is a time of communication, it may be, okay, we're not going to discuss this right now.
Yeah.
This is what I said. Go do this. We can come back and revisit this in 30 minutes. But I've even told, it may be tell the kids, okay, go write your arguments out. You disagree with what I said. Go write out why and give me a counter.
Mm-hmm,
Now you put it back on the child where they have to
mm-hmm,
come back and give you a written response of, this is what I think and get their thoughts together and also kind of calm down. Okay, you write down what happened, you write down how you feel about what I did and what you think should have happened. The other thing you've just done and the kid doesn't realize is you got them writing.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
we just got a kid to do work, so it's kind of getting them writing, but they're also able to release their feelings and emotions. Now, kids are going to have emotions and feelings because they're people. They're little people, they're little people. So they're going to have those feelings and emotions. They're going to have that this is not fair. I don't agree. Well, go write it out. Tell me what's not fair and why it's not fair. And then you walk away. You're not in the verbal volleyball. You've walked away. You've ended the conversation, but you've also still empowered the child to write out that which they're thinking and feeling. And it gives you a chance to, if need be, to calm down as well. So you remove
Mm-hmm,
yourself from the situation, they're removed from it, and they can come back later. Mom, Dad, I didn't agree with so and so because da, 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 da. So give them that framework of how to even write it out. But the back and forth, and I said, don't play the game.
yeah,
Don't play the game. Kids are skill manipulators
yeah.
and kind of watch because they'll ask a question and it's kind of it's time for bed and I don't know why kids get thirsty at the bedtime. It's
Mm-hmm.
time for bed and that's the this child you will ever they I'm thirsty. Can I have a glass of water? Can I get a so and so? Yeah, I gotta go to the back. It's the verbal, it's the back and forth. Set the boundaries, set the expectation, and just don't play volleyball with them.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I would say though with that, would imagine that, you know, given the redirective to go and write your arguments out would be for an older child, but clearly a child that's younger,
Yes.
is setting the expectation, being
But
firm,
you
and
know
then,
what? But even in that,
mm-hmm,
I would even do it for the younger kids. And we think about the older kids, it may be you're thinking of a framework. I feel blank. And you may have to have those sentence frames for them right there where they kind of know, I feel this, or go draw me a picture about how you feel. And even because it's called inventive writing for those kindergarten and first grade women, and I have the vocabulary, but
mm-hmm,
go draw a picture and write out what you and they'll have some letters and scribble and it's their inventive writing and it's
mm-hmm,
still their way of getting their writing out. So I would even do it for the little ones. Go, okay, go write out, go make a picture about what you think mommy should have done. Or that
mm-hmm,
go do that and talk about it. And so kind of give them that way because you're also empowering them at that young age to even write. I think
mm-hmm,
sometimes we wait until they hit fourth, fifth, sixth grade to begin to write about stuff. But if we teach them when they're even 5 years old,
mm-hmm,
okay, you don't feel, and it may be, let's sit down together. Okay, what do you think? Draw your picture, show mommy how you think. And it may be taking that moment where you're not doing the verbal volleyball. And
mm-hmm.
again, this is based on what the action is. So it wouldn't work for everything.
Right.
But if it's one of those whether it's a consequence or whether it's this is taking place and you've got those emotions, it may be okay, go draw what you think should have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and so I said, I don't want parents to think, oh, I can't do this with my little kids because it can be done. It just has to be done in a different way, a creative way, where I wouldn't expect them to write a 5 paragraph essay
Mm-hmm.
on what you think I should have done
Yeah.
and how I should have done that. But it may be, I feel sad because so and so, or a feelings chart. How do you feel right now? And they color in how they feel. I feel this because. I feel sad because, and they tell you why, or I'm hurt because. So even at that 5 and 6 and 7 year old age,
Mm-hmm.
it could still be done without.
Wow. Well, that's pretty thorough. And I know, having raised a truckload of kids over the past 35 years, still raising some. They're not kids, they're grown people, and we still have to set boundaries. And I'll say this from the perspective of having, whether your child is 3 or 33, um, you know, setting the expectation of operating what's expected, how things will be handled, and then drawing the line that cannot be crossed. And I do know that as a parent, sometimes we don't honor our own word, because we'll say, okay, I'm not going to tell you again. And then we tell them again. Now,
Mm-hmm.
say what you mean what you say. And I think that, and I don't know why. I think maybe leniency, a little compassion or whatever. And it depends on, the situation. But one of the things that I've learned as um, I call myself a professional parent. I, of course, did foster care for 25 years, actively raising over 250 boys, males, and seeing all kind of behaviors. So, whether that's in school, whether that's at home, managing the behavior, sometimes at school from home, but understanding and setting the expectation that my kids knew that you go to school, act a fool if you want to. There are going to be consequences not only in school, but then when you come home, and rest assured that
Mm-hmm.
there's a line in the sand. And so, whatever you do at school, you're going to get a consequence there, but then you're going to get one at home. If the directive is that you're to do something, we don't say it twice. So I have to say it more than once, there's going to be a problem. But then again, kids test boundaries. It's what they
Mm-hmm.
do to see, let me see how far I can go. If you are a parent or a teacher, that is flexible in your boundary, depending on the mood that you're in, then you'll get inconsistent behavior. But when children know that
Mm-hmm.
there's firmness, oh, I cannot put, because they're going to test the boundaries to see, okay, this is what she said. Let me see what's going to happen. When they find out that you're true to your word, oh, you're not going to get the pushback. It's just going to, they're going to honor those words because they know there's a consequence coming. If I say back when I don't think anybody plays Nintendo anymore, I don't know. I guess it's what, PlayStation 4 or 5 or 6, I don't know.
PlayStation 5.
Um, yeah, but that was, the game. That was big. Now I would imagine it's probably cell phones now. If you tell your child, if you do A, B, C, and here are the guidelines, or, in order for you to have this cell phone, here are the expectations. You have to, maintain your grades. You can't use your phone in school. Can't be on your phone at night. If I find out that you're deficient in any of these areas, I'm taking your phone. But then, the kids are deficient and then they act out, and then you don't take the phone, and then there's a threat. And, then the child, will just continue to push those boundaries because they'll know, oh, well, the last 4 times that I did this, nothing happened. But then the one time, I think as parents, when we're like, okay, now I'm angry, because I've told you
Mhm.
5 times and you're not listening. And now I'm going to show you. Well, you probably should show them the first time,
Right.
and then they'll know that there's a hard line. And this is just, not saying that children can't express themselves. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But then on the backside, how we raised our kids was after the consequence. Now we need to have a correction discussion. Understand, here's why you got the punishment or the consequence. I don't like the word punishment. I like consequence because that's what we tell them. For every action, there's an equal reaction to it. If you break the
React.
law, then there's a consequence for that. And so that's how we raise them. So if you break the infraction, here's the consequence. We had a point system, and it worked beautifully. Our kids, oh, they knew on Fridays they come home. Everybody come home on Friday at 3 o'clock, and the point book was on the table. And they get that point book, and they're looking to see if they got weekend punishment. Because weekend punishment, nobody wanted weekend punishment. Because that meant you were cleaning and reading while everybody and you was eating peanut butter and jelly. That's it. Peanut butter, jelly, water, fruit, and even if we went out to dinner. Now, some will say, "Oh, that's cruel." No, that's teaching them accountability. You break the rule, you got to pay to play. You break the rule, here's the consequences. If you act up in school, you don't do your chores, whatever the things are, the boundaries, you at school, you're acting out, there are consequences for that. And the more you act out, I think the more we have to get that behavior in check. And you do that by holding them accountable, but then hold yourself accountable to the boundary that you set. So the children love consistency. They pretend they don't, but they need the structure. And so it's super important that as we're raising them and we're training them, that what happens at home, it should translate well at school. It should not really be much separation there because you want your children to understand that there are consequences. Doesn't matter where you go. That whether you're at home and at school, that's not,
Yes.
it's kind of old school raising. When you leave out this house, don't you act up. You can act crazy in here, but when you go out this house, don't let your teacher call me.
You represent me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's really good. Well, I think that's really good. Listen, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts, how do you deal with setting boundaries for your children? This is a discussion. I think we're seeing so many different parenting styles. What works for you? And I think particularly, um, when we train them younger with boundaries, then as they're getting older, they don't tend to push them as much. I think sometimes we think that when they're little, sometimes we think things are cute and some stuff is not. It may be cute the first time
Yes.
they do it, but then they get a laugh and they're like, oh, okay. I'm getting some attention here. And I don't think that's exactly what we want to portray. So we want to be mindful with that because the older, as they start, getting older and, maturing in things, we do want them to be able to manage their own behavior so that we don't have to. So I think, yeah, I'm curious, viewers, what your thoughts are. If there are any strategies that you're using, particularly, if your child is 3 or 13 or 16. I know if you're raising teenagers, oh my God, I had, Jesus, 5 or 6 of them at one time. I had 5 of them that were the same age. So imagine 5 16-year-olds at one time. 5 boys. Yeah, yeah,
Bless you.
yeah. So yeah, lots of tools in the toolkit, and had to have a different tool for each kid. But yeah, what a journey! But it was a very pleasant journey. I wouldn't trade it in for the world. Well, Sarah, thank you for your expertise. Viewers, thank you for taking time to view this content. We pray that we've said something, shared some ideas and some thoughts that will continue. We want to help our children have a successful academic career, but then also, I will say this, setting boundaries and expectations also helps them in the workplace. We do not have time to jump into that. That's a different conversation. But I will say this, as for someone who's worked in the arena as an administrator in an office environment, and my husband who also has worked as in management and working with a lot of time younger, like the younger generation, 16 to like 25 and 30, a lot of workers that are coming into the workforce, they're untrained and they don't understand how to work in boundaries. So it's super critical that we lay that foundation early and we begin to teach that, particularly in the school in their academic career, because that's where they're learning how to operate in a system that's outside of their home life or their home structure. Sarah, thank you again for sharing your thoughts. Viewers, again, put your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And please join us again for our next discussion. Like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next video. I'm Anissa Smith signing out. And Sarah, say bye, Sarah.
Thank you. It's good.
Oh, excellent. Take care, guys. We'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.